Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into something called Psychotech, and it's basically a framework that looks at the human mind exactly like an operating system. You know when your computer starts lagging or background apps keep crashing out of nowhere? You don't just throw the whole laptop away, right? No. You look for a software glitch. You run a diagnostic. You update the OS. Well, we're going to apply that exact same logic to your mind using the 360 disruption framework. Think of it as a comprehensive 360-degree deep system antivirus scan for your brain, one that meticulously clears out all that hidden junk so you can finally optimize your true performance.
I want to start with this quote. Human potential is not limited by capability, but by invisible inner software. Most of us go through life thinking we're stuck simply because we aren't smart enough or talented enough, or maybe we just don't have the right resources. But the source material for today makes a massive point. Our limitations have absolutely nothing to do with a lack of capability. We're actually being held back by our own hidden mental programming. It's this invisible code running quietly in the background that totally dictates what we believe is possible for us.
All right, here's our system diagnostics report for today. We're going to cover the default settings, identifying the bugs, the command line loop, patching the code, and finally executing a full system upgrade.
Let's jump right into section 1, the default settings, the invisible prison of the mind. The core argument here is that we are severely limited by unexamined beliefs, not a lack of intelligence. If you look at elite leaders, whether in business, sports, science, whatever, they all share this one fascinating trait. They do not just blindly accept their initial reactions to things. Think about a pro athlete reviewing game tape after a really bad loss. They aren't watching that tape to pump up their ego. They are hunting for their own blind spots. They're actively searching for flaws in their own programming. So instead of just shoving their emotions down when things get tough, top performers relentlessly challenge their own unexamined assumptions. They completely refuse to just live on their default settings.
Moving to section 2, identifying the bugs, the 5-layer invisible trap.
To actually run this 360-degree deep scan, we need to know what kind of malware is quietly draining our energy. And it's broken down into a 5-layer hierarchy. First up, assumptions. These are our silent defaults, like unquestioned beliefs of, well, this is just who I am. Next are presumptions. These are basically emotion-led predictions, like automatically assuming that if you speak up in a meeting, you'll inevitably be judged. Then we hit illusions. These are perceptual distortions, where our brain falsely links two totally unrelated things together. Going deeper, we find delusions. These are ego-protected lies, like telling yourself, I had absolutely no choice, just to avoid taking responsibility for a tough call. And finally, myths. Think of myths as that annoying legacy bloatware that came pre-installed on your computer from the factory. It's socially inherited poison you didn't even ask for, but it eats up your mental RAM anyway. All these layers feel totally normal to us, but they literally program hard ceilings on our potential. Now, what's really interesting is this bug right here, the idea of comfort. We often suffer from the illusion that comfort equals safety. And sure, it feels incredibly logical. But the upgraded truth? Comfort actually equals competence decay. When we optimize our entire lives purely to be comfortable, we lose our edge. That illusion of safety is really just the slow, quiet decay of our potential. Oh, and here is another massive bug, a huge piece of that socially inherited bloatware, the myth that motivation has to come before action. I mean, how many times have you waited to feel ready or inspired before starting a tough project? Procrastination isn't some deep character flaw. It's literally just an infinite loading loop caused by waiting for a motivation variable that's never actually going to trigger. The reality? Action creates motivation. Action is the manual override. It's the spark itself, not the result. All right, section 3, the command line loop, how thoughts become destiny. So, how does this actually play out in real life? Well, every single human operates on a very mechanical, chronological loop when processing reality. It starts with perception. Something happens out there in the world. Then, we immediately attach a meaning to it. That meaning automatically generates an emotion. That emotion drives an action. That action produces a result. And over time, those results calcify into our identity. Basically, your identity is the compiled software program that gets built from running this exact loop thousands of times every single day. So the crucial point is, where do the bugs actually infect this system? The glitch happens at step 2, meaning. We do not act on raw facts, we act on our interpretation of them. Meaning is the exact line of code where all those limiting constructs, the assumptions and illusions we just audited, completely hijack the entire execution loop. Let's look at a real example. Say you pitch a really bold idea at work and it gets firmly rejected. That's the event. Now, if your system is running malware, your automated meaning maker kicks in and says, failure means I am inadequate. That creates a heavy, sinking feeling of shame, which drives you to withdraw and just stay silent next time. But with updated code, the meaning completely shifts to failure is just data. That removes the shame entirely. It turns a heavy emotional burden into a light analytical strategy. The event was exactly the same. The only thing that changed was that one single line of code at the meaning stage.
Section 4, Patching the Code, Daily Microhabits for Disruption. Let's get into the tools. Tool 1 is the 5-minute assumption audit. Ask yourself, what am I assuming to be true right now without actual evidence? This is your daily quick scan for the 360 disruption framework. It's a vital microhabit that roots out those silent defaults in the background of your mind and totally stops the malware from reinstalling itself while you sleep. Tool 2 is the emotional ownership shift. Pay close attention to the phrasing here. Most of us walk around saying things like, this made me feel angry, or this made me feel sad, which basically makes us passive victims of our environment. But if you shift just a few words and say, I interpreted this as, it changes everything. By tweaking that language, you're essentially granting yourself administrator privileges over your own mind. You own the interpretation, which means you have the clearance to change it. And this brilliantly illustrates Tool 3, the identity recode. The malware will tell you, I am anxious, blending your core identity with a temporary emotion. The updated code says, anxiety is a signal, not my identity. When you detach who you are from your passing feelings, you're rewriting your source code to be incredibly resilient. You have thoughts and emotions. You are not your thoughts and emotions. Tool 4 is behavior-first execution. The rule here is super clear. Do the thing before you feel completely ready. You literally have to execute before the confidence shows up. These daily micro-habits, like taking action even when you're terrified, are the actual keystrokes that write your new identity. You can't just sit around on the couch and hypothesize a new version of yourself into existence. It has to be coded through physical, real-world action. Finally, Section 5, System Upgrade, Activating Peak Human Potential. The source material packages all this into a highly practical, execution-oriented model called the S.A.M.A.D.H.I framework. It stands for self-observation without judgment, assumption destruction, meaning engineering, aligned action, discipline by design, which means using your environment to help you instead of relying purely on willpower, high-leverage habits, and finally, identity elevation. Together, these 7 components are the ultimate daily microhabits that actually compile your brand new operating system. It's literal inner engineering. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your self-image. Wow, let that heavy reality sink in for a second. You can set the most ambitious goals in the whole world, but your willpower is completely useless if your underlying self-image is still running on like a Windows 95 level of confidence. If your internal operating system isn't upgraded to match your ambitions, you will inevitably fall right back down to whatever level your inner software allows. Let's see how this all builds together. Identity is not discovered. It is meticulously constructed through repetition. You don't just wander out into the woods and find yourself. You construct yourself. Every single microhabit is a line of code. Every time you audit an assumption, take emotional ownership, or take action before you feel ready, you are programming yourself. You are coding a new, upgraded identity every single day, whether you realize it or not. So, I'll leave you with this. What unquestioned belief is secretly running your life on autopilot today? Find the malware, apply the patch, rewrite your software. I'll see you in the next explainer.